Well, good morning, everyone. We're going to get started. We have three more members that hopefully will be joining us shortly. We've got three on the phone, Bill Ariano, Delegate Janelle Wilkins, and Savitra Peoples. And all of our county representatives, thank you all for coming and everyone else for coming to our monthly Maryland Complete Count Committee. I want to introduce our co-chairs, and it is Lily Castillo and Walkiria Poole are the co-chairs. So I want to introduce them and turn it over.
Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here today. Especially want to say thank you to Secretary of Planning, Department of Planning staff, all commission members, census staff, and especially all county partners who travel a lot to be here today. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to work together and make this Census 2020 a successful one for everybody in the state of Maryland. We have some topics that we need to cover in regards of ethics disclosures. If you have not filed CCCs, these ethics disclosure, please turn them in. It's really important at this moment to have it filed. At the same time, MCCC members, please submit your surveys. We need them submitted as well. Need work group recommendations. If you have any, please let us know. It is really important to count in everybody's voice. And up to the moment, we have 4 vacancies on the Maryland CCC. So if you have any resumes of individuals do you believe they're qualified and can help us with this process, please turn them to Audra. That will be really appreciated. As an open discussion, we have our partners at this moment of all the counties. We welcome you all and welcome all the leaders today here united for one cause, Census 2020. We would like to start by the CC members introducing yourself, then we'll walk into the counties and all the leaders and partnerships that are here today. Thank you, everybody.
Marian Brackney from Howard County, joined Maryland CCC in June. This is my second meeting.
I'm Debbie Lichter from the State Department of Education and the Office of the Superintendent. I would be your contact if you're having any difficulty getting in touch with your local school system superintendent. Please contact me and we'll be able to help you make those connections.
I'm Lauren Sugo from the City of Gaithersburg, representing the Maryland Municipal League.
I'm staff to the committee, Audra Harrison, Director for Maryland Census.
Lillian Castillo, co-chair.
Walkiria Poole, co-chair.
Rob McCord, Secretary of Planning.
Randall Nixon, Associate Secretary. State Director of the Census.
Morning, everybody. George Escobar from CASA, also a complete count.
Hi, this is Savitra Peoples from Baltimore County. Hi everyone, this is Delegate Janelle Wilkins representing District 20 in Montgomery County.
One more, and Bill Ariano. Bill Ariano from Baltimore Community Lending. All right, those are our members present today. And we'll move forward with the agenda. If any of the members want to share anything before we open it up to the county.
I think we're fine. We will go through and introduce the rest of the individuals here today, and we will continue going over with all of partnership from the counties to know how can we help you. We are here to work together and looking forward to see what you guys have done so far and how can we incorporate ourselves to help you in this process for Census 2020.
MM Outreach Coordinator on the Western Shore.
John Watson at Maryland, State of Maryland, Eastern Shore Coordinator for the Census.
Jackie Gregory, Cecil County Council. Terry Campbell, Council Assistant. Jordan Baum from Colbert, Prince George's County Complete Count Committee. Kathleen Freeman with the Caroline County CCC. Kelly Henry, Worcester County.
Brad Killian, Harford County Planning and Zoning.
Betty Hewlett, Chair of Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission and Chair of the Prince George's County Complete Count Committee.
Martin Sokolich, Talbot County Planning Department.
Austin Davis, Baltimore City Department of Planning since 2025 manager.
I'm the Metro Frederick County, the coordinator for the grant.
Tyler McCurdy, Assistant to the Majority Leader at Maryland Senate.
Terry Fisher, U.S. Census Bureau.
Julius Smiley, U.S. Census Bureau.
Yvette Lewis, Assistant to San Holland's office.
Jacob Moore, Allegheny County CCC Chair.
Mike Wisnowski, Queen Anne's County Planning and Zoning.
Sonia White, Watonga County, CCC co-chair.
Bronte Michelle, Watonga County, co-chair of the CCC.
Morning, Chris Weinbrenner, Carroll County Communications Officer and also CCC member.
Good morning, Shasta Jardillo, Partnership Specialist, Census Bureau.
Good morning, Councilwoman Don Sullivan, representing Caroline County and also Kent County Commissioners.
Bill Hunt, Secretary of Staff, Land Use and Growth.
Sharon Bluges, Anne Arundel County Executive's Office, or Different Office, Constituent Services Officer there. And then also the Census County Contact Coordinator.
Sean Ellis, Montgomery County, 2026.
Diane Vu, Director of the Montgomery County Office of Community Partnerships and Staff Lead for the Montgomery County CCC.
Eduardo Hayden, I'm actually a small business outreach manager for the governor's office for minority and affairs. Serving.
Amy Blessinger with the Charles County Complete Count.
Adam Bruce, Chief of Staff for the Maryland Department of Planning.
Joe Kleinman, Office of Senator Chris Van Hollen.
Jackie Scott, Director of Department of Community Resources and Services in Howard County, the lead for Howard County. Leslie Salvatore, Director of Queen Anne's County Public Information.
And we've got a couple people on the phone, Thomas and Lori, you want to introduce yourselves?
Lloyd Carter, my Public County. And Tom Smith, representative of the library of Garrett County. And I don't know about you, Lori, but I can't hear folks very well, unfortunately.
Yes,
That's true.
we had to set up two lines, so I'm going to keep you close to the CCC. So forgive us, you won't be able to hear the audience as well, but the questions coming from the CCC are what I think I want you closest position to hear.
Gotcha.
Continue with the agenda, we will go to the part where we're gonna cover our partnership on counties and establish progress on settlements and readiness for the CCCs. If any of you are welcome to start, just state your county and how can we help you and how can we work together.
Sure. So again, I'm Kathleen with Caroline County's Complete Count Committee, and we're really just getting started. We had our kickoff meeting probably, I want to say 2 weeks ago, and we plan to meet again in about 2 weeks. We've had pretty good participation at the original meeting. We're going to be looking for some help, some minority communities, particularly Spanish-speaking communities. We have some communities I think would be hard to count in Caroline County. Right, we have a really good contact with the Board of Education in Caroline County. And right now we're just really just getting started. So I don't know what kind of help to ask for yet. Maybe next month.
Well, the good thing is I'm a Spanish speaker. I'm willing here to help you. I'm really with you as well. Please let us know when you need us and we'll be there straight into the community as well. We'll be our professional. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, again, I'm Jordan Balkin-Colbert. I'm the outreach coordinator for Prince George's County. And we established our first kickoff meeting July 17th. And our second meeting is going to be September 18th. And at our first kickoff meeting, we had a cross-section of various organizations, Prince George's County government agencies, nonprofits, and a few others. And it was about maybe 60 participants at our meeting, which was very successful. We plan to have the second one with all of our subcommittees. We have about 13 of those subcommittees. We've developed literature for our Complete Count Committee and our partners. We have one-page fact sheets, which we have translated into Spanish. The next step is to translate it into French. We are utilizing your materials in terms of the Korean Haitian flyer that the state has and a few others. So I think that's helpful resources that we've all put on our website. We have posters available for the municipalities and the libraries to have in their town halls or in their areas. One of our partners is the local libraries, and they will have a designated computer for residents to come and complete their surveys in March when they are able to go online. So we have a strong partnership with that. We have a relationship with the Council of Governments in terms of our universal palm cards that we have with Parks and Planning and COG. We plan to have a palm card that has statistics for DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And the purpose of this universal palm card is so that the businesses within the metropolitan area can utilize them in their doctor's offices and their windows, because many people move in and out, work in DC, but live in Maryland. We also have an FAQ specifically on our website that we just translate, that we're going into translation. Frequently asked questions that we pull from many different partners, but also questions that we got from the community. In terms of upcoming events, we're going to have several different tables at various locations for National Night Out today, which is a really fun family event, and we're super excited about that. We'll participate in some back-to-school programs, the Hispanic Festival, and many more. We want to make sure that we're engaging our community and educating them on the census. A couple of weeks ago, we had our first workshop, census solution workshop, where Robin Brown attended. So that was very helpful in terms of getting our residents educated and trained to go into outreach. And I talked about our partnerships, COG, WSSD, CAF, our county council members. We're working with them in terms of having events and partnering with them. And then our libraries and our congressional officers as well.
And if I may dovetail on that, even though we've had our full complete count committee meeting in July, and you were there, we've also been meeting regularly since last year. So with like grantees and several other people to get well underway for our first formal complete count committee.
Well,
Thank you.
They just wanna, they doing a phenomenal job, and they outrageous county residents. So, and you know, all you can hear talking about throughout the county is the census, and the power of unity is amazing what is happening. And so I have to commend the work of the CCC and Jordan. It's just a great model, and I commend you.
Thank you so much.
Jackie Gregory, Cecil County Councilwoman. We're at the very beginning stages of this. We had a presentation at one of our work sessions that helped us identify, help the council members become informed about some of the communities that typically are lower in returning their census numbers. So we're going to work to get outreach into those communities, into different community groups, and also to identify some of the pitfalls that keep people from wanting to respond to the census, some of the questions they might have. So we want to make sure we get all that information out. But again, we're at the very beginning stages of this.
I see the fact that you're already coordinating, so work with those who are new, work with those who had already started it, and get the feedback and information, because that's something that way you don't have to repeat or reinvent the wheel when it's already there. So I'm glad you guys connected already.
I did have one more comment. I didn't discuss the presence part and how we can work with you. I did want to say that you all been doing a great job in terms of coming to our kickoff meetings and a few of our events and supporting that, but creating a stronger presence in terms of some of our meetings, maybe having an info meeting in Prince George's County for our partners and stakeholders.
Allegheny County is our biggest thing. We've met 3 times now. We are working through August with the Allegheny County School Board to set up an inter-high school CCC for the coming year. So that's been the biggest project so far. Moving forward in September, we will be up in Frostburg a lot. Frostburg State University is still our main concern in terms of low response rates. So September and onward, we'll be focusing on Frostburg State.
I'm in Anne Arundel County here, so we've had 3 CCC meetings. Trying to think, it was the 3rd or 4th coming up, but this August 21st, we're doing a census Q&A, and Daniel Jones will be our speaker, Harry Freeman, our chair will be speaking, Audra will be saying just a few words, and then our CAO. And we're limited to about 100 people in the auditorium, and we're just about that number. So what we're going to do is make this kind of a town hall census Q&A, a CCC meeting, and then our committee can kind of ask questions of Daniel, because we did have quite a few questions that came out of the last meeting. We are also participating in National Night Out. This is our t-shirt. I know it's very subdued, you can't see me walk in at all. Find a necklace, with it. That's right. So I just picked those up yesterday, and all of our constituent services officers, hopefully we'll have those on. And then we got tablecloths, and then I was able to get 5 different flyers, 2 of which I used, 2 or 3 I used from the state, and the rest I used from the census. And I think we have 5,000 copies of that. We're probably going to be participating in our county fair in September, which is 11, 12, 13, 14, and setting up a census table, constituent services table there. And then we've got the emergency expo in September as well. 3,000 or 4,000 people come to that, and there's several thousand that come to the thing. So I think probably we're going to go through our 5,000 copies of each of those flyers pretty quickly is what I expect. We've got pencils, we've got little push cards, what we call just little business cards. It's got the census logo, the link, Anne Arundel County census page, and then just everyone counts. Just a lot of different things just to get in people's hands until things really, really get going in January. And then of course we're gonna have the help of the Census Bureau really doing a lot of promotion as well on TV and radio. So in our timeline of things that our chair has so well put together, we were in awareness and education, and now we're really in kind of an education implementation at this point. I am digging down into the subcommittees. I will be meeting with both hospital PIOs, and Arundel just has 2 hospitals. And then my chair is meeting, we met with Fort Meade, had a very successful meeting with Fort Meade. By the way, that is the most undercounted precinct, census tract in Anne Arundel County. Second is Seven Oaks in Odenton, where I used to live, which is across from Fort Meade. And then I think some areas in Brooklyn Park. So they are very, very invested and engaged, Fort Meade people, about getting their people counted. So Harry, our chair, is a former military, so he's able to kind of talk their language, if you will. That this is a patriotic act, this is a nonpartisan act, you don't need to worry about the act amendment, this is something you do, so. We did that, and then he and I, Daniel, met last week with the Maryland Directors of Athletic something, but it was the community colleges, and every state director was there. I thought it was just like a small meeting. I had no idea what Daniel had said. So it was like a room full of 30 people, and we were really able to get the message out about how to give a message to your students, to your campuses, which is a wholly different message, isn't it? Wholly different kind of activity. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. Lots going on, very, very busy. People are getting excited. All our agency heads are engaged and excited, and we're beginning to drill down, I think. I think that's the best way to say what's happening in our county right now. I need to go. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Austin Davis, Baltimore City Department of Planning. So, I guess I have a quick question for the council or for the committee, and then I can kind of update our what we've been doing. The main thing that our complete count committee, and I guess me personally, I'm wondering is what will happen with the rest of the funding that didn't get allocated. I think it'd be great to have a tentative budget or a timeline for how those funds will get used. Because something that I've already been meeting with DC Office of Planning in Baltimore County, and we want to get MTA and WMATA involved. But since those are more state agencies, they are crossing jurisdictional lines. I don't feel like me and Baltimore County should pony up the money for a state agency we kind of think that that's under the purview of the Maryland Department of Planning and the State Complete Count Committee, especially since there's extra funding, and I think it would benefit all of us if the extra funding could be used to wrap some trains, wrap some buses, put some adverts up. When I met with DC, they said that we could implement a similar strategy for their housing market, where they say like, oh, stop taking the train, live in DC, houses are cheaper in Baltimore, take the train. So a similar product like that, just throughout the MTA, which covers most of our counties, at least most of the ones where the majority of the population lives. So that's like my major ask for the count committee, and I can provide some input there as well if need be. And then additionally, I would love to have some sort of slightly modern way for us all to communicate off of email, maybe like a Slack or a Discord. I think it'd be really helpful if someone's trying to just get off the ground. I could share a lot of like things really off the cuff, quick. If someone like wakes up in the middle of the night and has like an idea that maybe Air County can't do, but my city could do or something like that, I think it'd be wonderful for us to all get connected. That's also something I'd love to help the State Complete Count Committee with. So those are my two quick things, and I think as I kind of like go into what we've been doing, it'll make sense because we've actually been meeting since last year. We had a kickoff meeting in September, which had hundreds of people from the city come in. And that's how we built our action plan. Essentially, we got their input based on like the who, what, when, where, why, how, for our major subcommittees. We have 5 subcommittees that work with the action plan that I wrote, and then we have a 6th subcommittee for our grants and subgrants. We're actually taking $100K from the state that we received, and we're subgranting it to micro organizations in the city. So that could be a nonprofit that could match. It could be the 4 guys at the end of my block who sit out every night and smoke cigars to make sure that the neighborhood's clean. They do a barbecue once a month. And it could be even like a small business that does a lot of outreach and things already in the community, or a place like a barbershop or salon. I say this a lot, it takes like 6 hours to do, so if I'm sitting in a chair, I might as well get informed about the census. So we're working on getting that sub-grant completed. Our sub-grants committee is meeting next week, and we're hoping to have a draft RFP at our meeting on Tuesday, our full city meeting. We meet bi-weekly. And I think that's gonna be really helpful. Additionally, I've been connected with the National League of Cities. They sent me up to a conference last month, and I'm connected with my counterparts for all of the major cities around the country. And we're communicating digitally and sharing information and whatnot. And one thing that I found has been really helpful for them is giving them copies of like my action plan, which I have with me now, and kind of explaining to them how like the meta of what we've been doing. And I, just once again, just kind of echo like having that set up by NLC and by Harvard Kennedy School has been really helpful. And I think some of you all seem like you have some handouts and one-pagers and things that are kind of tied to your county or that aren't the wonderful census materials. And that's something we'd like to do, but we've just been way more on like the back end, just developing and doing programming. I mean, I'd love to trade, like give y'all like this RFPs for our subgrants and explain how we did our action plan if I could receive some documents. So that's something that I think I would love for the count committee to do. Other than that, we're just really pushing to implement our plan. Now that's been finalized and blessed by our wonderful mayor. We have it still online for people to comment and look at, so I advise all of you to look it up and check it out. And we're moving into the implementation phase. Our tentative timeline has us releasing our subgrants by October, so that way we can have a lot of meetings with all of these, hopefully hundreds of people who apply. And that's going to be our real push for getting the messaging, outreach, and communication for the census. Additionally, we have all of the major players in the city, all the major organizations, community nodes, et cetera, who are all definitely active and plugged in, and many of them were in the room with us when Director Dillingham came to the city. So I'm not too worried on that front, but yeah, just some more communication and hopefully some money for transportation, since so much of our city uses public transit. I mean, the Baltimore Metro, it's one spur, is the, I think, 9th most used transit network in the nation or something, just that. So way so for heavy rail, at least in major cities. But yeah, so that'd be great. Other than that, if there's any questions, let me know. I'm here. Yeah.
Hi, Chris Weinbrenner with Carroll County. We're fairly early in our process as well. We have established our CCC at the beginning of June and had our second meeting in July with 34 members, all very active within the CCC, great representation across the county. We'll be having our next meeting end of August. As far as in our first meeting, we did logo approval for our local plan and started initial Rome training. We're really trying to identify through that mapping program where our areas that we need to focus. I would say we're in mobilization right now.
From that meeting, our members were charged with going out and mobilizing work groups that satisfy their particular area or community of interest. We're working on our website. We have a web page, but we're working on an entire website based around Census 2020. We're working closely with our local paper, who actually yesterday, in a column, published a veteran census, the importance of the veteran count. So that's a nice partnership for us. As far as our next meeting, we'll be working on our strategic and/or action plan and testimonials. And as far as what we need, I think I'll know more after we have our work groups report back at the end of August.
I'm Eileen Mitchell from Frederick County. We're just starting out. I've been on board for probably a couple weeks. One of the questions I have, and I don't know who answers this, is we haven't had the grant agreement signed yet. It's at Maryland now. The county executive signed it. So even though it'll be signed after July 1st, can we still count what has been done since July 1st? Because that was, July 1st to June 30th next year, and I'm not sure, because we've had people doing things volunteering time, which will go into the in-kind, part of it. But I don't know if we can count from July 1st, or we have to wait till we actually get it signed.
Eileen, I'm checking with Ann in our grants office now, and I'll have an answer before we leave today.
Good, thank you. And I'm gonna take what everybody's saying and start gathering information so I get better ideas of what I'm doing.
Have you received that yet?
No.
Sonia Whited for Wacomico County Complete Count Committee. So we had 3 meetings. We're definitely in the beginning phases. So we just worked through our committees, and I know Lori's on the phone too. For our Complete Count Committee, it is a collaboration with Wacomico County and the City of Salisbury as well. So actually tonight we will be getting our proclamation from the county, and then next week is from the city. For us, we had a bunch of questions, but one of them is kind of piggybacking on what you said, is just how we communicate within our county, but also amongst ourselves. There's some great ideas. I hate reinventing the wheel with a passion. So if we have some of the information, whether it's from some of the counties that are more active or ideas, because we are very rural compared to Baltimore City, like it's a totally different thing. You can't take what Baltimore City's doing and put that in Salisbury. That's not gonna work. So, but there might be some ideas that we can flow and understand. We have a big Haitian community. I know we've been talking about how do we convert that, whether it's French or Creole or whatever, so we can reach that community. If somebody else has done that with some of the relevant pieces, that would be great. And so that's kind of, we're just here to listen and to hear. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we missed being a part of the $4.7 or whatever it was $1 million grant. We found out about it too late. It was already done and over with, so no one on the Eastern Shore actually got any funding from that grant. So our challenge right now is how do we access funding to be able to do some of these ideas and print up stuff and have events that cost money. So that's our big challenge right now. And a lot of the subcommittees and some of the chairs have already contacted and asked, how do we go about getting funding to be able to do activities? So that's a big challenge for us right now because we missed the big source of money that came down. We were not told about the grant. So,
same with all of Western Maryland.
Excuse me?
Same with all of Western
Maryland. Oh, really? Okay.
Hi, Diane Boo, Montgomery County. So our CCC was established by an executive order back in February. It was co-signed by the chair of our Complete Count Committee, who is the president of our county council, who also happens to be Latina and was involved in the census work in 2010. We have over 150 representatives on our CCC. I know that is not pretty standard for other CCCs,
But we wanted to have a representation from a broad group of folks, from nonprofits to faith leaders to community leaders to small business owners. And so we just are taking everybody who wants to be a part of our CCC that can be our partner and help us get the message out. Out of the larger CCC, we've established 5 regional CCC subcommittees. The purpose of the regional subcommittees is to really take a granular approach to our education and outreach strategies, both geographically and also by demographic. So we're drilling down into census tracts to see which communities were undercounted in 2010 and looking to see who in our partners, whether it's a nonprofit organization, a faith community, a grocery store, whatever it is, to help us with our geographic outreach in that census tract. And then we're also taking a look at the makeup of the community. So it's a four-ward community, what languages are in that area, what faith communities are in that area that can be our partners. So the CCCs have met twice. The regional subcommittees have met once or twice also. So that's at least 3 or 4 meetings of the larger CCCs. And then we've been meeting individually with folks as well. We did receive a very large state grant in the amount of $581,000. With that fund, with those funds, we are creating a census fund that's going to be housed at the Montgomery County affiliate of the Greater Washington Community Foundation. The purpose of that is to do 2 things. One is to leverage additional dollars. So other corporations, other foundations, residents can donate directly to this fund. And that was based off of the model that we saw in New York. Additionally, that fund is going to allow us to partner with nonprofit organizations. So we have about 15 to 20 strategic partnerships with nonprofit organizations that can be our partner in helping developing and crafting our message and also helping to leverage volunteers and getting our message out. We've also included, as a part of our state grant, about 1/5 of that goes to marketing dollars. So we are going to have bus ads, we're going to have banners, flyers with faces of community members that are going to be translated into 6 different languages. Because part of the reason I think we were so successful in 2010 was because of our partnerships with the community leaders, and the faces of our census campaign were those community leaders. So we are relying on our trusted messengers again to really be our partners in this work. So we're putting our community leaders all over our marketing materials. Our website is up, we're finalizing our flyers. The same faces that will go on our flyers and our marketing campaign will also be the faces of our social media campaign also, because social media is such a critical part of this conversation. And we are going to launch the census fund, the logos, website, flyers, in the beginning of September, at which time we're going to have 2 calls for action from our residents and partners. Either donate directly to the census fund or become a census ambassador. So we plan on recruiting at least 300 census ambassadors. This is outside of our partnerships with our nonprofit organizations and faith communities. These census ambassadors will go out to outreach events in partnership with the nonprofit organizations. They will be trained by the Census Bureau, and they will have, T-shirts. They will be doing creative things like hosting census parties. So on count day, they're going to have 10 people over in their residence and encourage those 10 people to fill out the census. I think for us right now, the main thing besides getting all of these logistics in order is just crafting messages for individual communities, right? So what general message, so the general message is not gonna work across the board, right? So we're looking at messages into the LGBTQ community. We're looking to messages with the business community, small businesses, large businesses, in different Asian communities, the Latino community. So we've met with everyone from Telemundo all the way down to a group of middle schoolers to talk through messaging and what's going to work in each of these communities, because tailoring our messaging is really going to be what's critical in this moment. So I would love to hear what other jurisdictions are doing around messages, and if you have any advice or want to share, I would love to have a conversation.
Nice, thank you.
So Donzella Wilson with Kent County. We are at the very beginning of our process as well. We've got the Chastity a few weeks ago. We've also had another meeting just to kind of identify our partners. One of the things, I work with the local management board, so we have plenty of partners, which is a great benefit to us. We utilize the census data when we are applying for grants to the governor's office. So this information, we definitely have a huge interest in making sure the counts are correct for our needs there. We are having a vendor meeting with our partners that work with partners such as Healthy Families that work with our 0 to 5, which was underrepresented in our area. So just excited to be here and be able to hear what other counties are doing and be able to write down the information and gather that. So definitely want to piggyback if we do have a communication network for all of us to kind of see what other jurisdictions are doing and be able to connect with our different partners would be beneficial to us.
I'm Amy Blessinger with Charles County, and we recently formed our CCC as well and had our first kickoff meeting in July 16th. And we're going to be holding our next meeting at the Census Solution Workshop on August 22nd. We have a very engaged membership already, so we're pretty excited about that. And at the workshop, I think we're going to be able to come up with sort of a work plan for our CCC, so we're still kind of gathering information, so everyone's ideas are very welcome here. So we're sort of in the beginning stages as well. And our media office at the county is coming up with their own strategic plan. It will be a huge part of our effort because we have a lot of outlets. We have our social media and our website. So I think we're going to be working with them quite a bit to get the word out as well. So they're still working on their work plan. But some of the, we have quite a good representation countywide amongst all our different agencies, departments, and nonprofits, but some of the issues that we're having is certain communities, like the faith-based communities, we need maybe some sort of maybe advice on how to get them engaged, since there's hundreds of faith communities. How do you channel so many communities into someone who can represent them on the committee, and how do we reach out to them? And also we need assistance identifying groups that can work with the Latino population. We don't have, I'm not aware of our local groups in that manner, so that might be something like we could use assistance with. And like a lot of the other smaller counties, we also missed out on the grant opportunity because for certain reasons, smaller counties don't have the resources to and staff resources to start early, and that came out really early. But I know that the state has a ton of funding that we can utilize, so that'll be relevant information for us as well. So, thank you.
I'm from Talbot County, Maryland, and have been listening to the divide that's here between the urbanized counties and the rural counties in terms of resources, opportunities, strategies, and outreach. Trying to figure out within a county of 40,000 people, half of them are in the town of Easton. How do you come up with those trusted voices to make the bridge between, the appointed people from the county government and people who are really underrepresented on these kinds of things? Who do you talk to get somebody to talk to the people you need to talk to? This is kind of the horn of the dilemma here right now. We don't expect to go out and give everybody a t-shirt or anything like that. So we did a little bit of that during the 2010 census. I was working on that then too. And I don't think it was targeted well enough to actually get the response we wanted out of it. We have some people like our libraries in the county who have, as someone else mentioned, opened up their facility, provided computer spaces to be able to do that, but to get people to feel comfortable with going to the library to do it, this is where it maybe would be helpful to be able to have sub-meetings some future time to get the rural communities all speaking together about how they're handling all these things that they're in, compared to Baltimore, Montgomery County, some of the others who have got a whole different set of concerns than ours, and maybe make a little bit more progress that way.
Could we just by a show of hands, the counties who didn't receive any funding?
I didn't even hear about any funding opportunity.
We didn't even have a census outreach person from the Bureau at the time.
I'm Leslie Salvatore with Queen Anne's County, and I share your views on the rural counties, and I think we have different strategies that might be very useful for Kent County and you and all of us on the shore to put our heads together. I think we're going to have similar goals. I'll be meeting with some of the newspaper editors because that's what I was in my prior life. But I talk to them, it's the same ones you'll be using.
So, Mike's on our complete count.
There you go. So we're still in the beginning stages. We've had meetings. I think what I'm most tickled about is that we have 13 people on our CCC, not counting Queen Anne's County staff. And I'm really pleased with how it shook out. We found a good representative from the faith-based areas. My major concern, again, is going to be in the northern end of the county where the Latino population is. And we're going to need resources to get out there and just help explaining everything and getting everybody on board and not frightened.
If I may make a suggestion based off of all of this, with 4 people left, or 4 seats left on the board, it seems like it would make sense if there was someone dedicated to rural outreach.
I'm Jackie Scott from Howard County. Just giving a quick update. We are moving forward mostly on our partnership building. We have, because of our department's connection and our experience in funding a lot of our nonprofit community partners, we are doing individual specific outreach to ensure that we know those trusted partners already that are already connected, faith community, private sector, nonprofits, to ensure that they're ready to be mobilized and they're understanding that we're going to be launching a sub-grant process to identify our pockets of populations and where they are with our Department of Planning and Zoning as our key partner there, and mapping our data for our county so that we know where we want to target partners and the sub-grants that will be coming out. We have completed
their information, as you indicated, in that system so that we could not have to recreate the wheel and look at what worked for plans. We're sort of that in between. We have lots of rural areas, but we have some significant populations in sort of an urban suburban area also, so we would love to be able to network with you all.
So, Julius Mine, Census Bureau. First, I want to make a comment. I think all the feedback is really good, but to put it in context, Maryland was the only state in the Philadelphia region, which is what we cover right now, that actually put money in the legislature. And so the challenges you're feeling are very real, but it's actually the only state that did this for the first time ever. In terms of promotional materials, I sent out an email yesterday to some of you. We finally put out information that's targeted, so all the people who are new. 2020 census.gov/partners. We have materials for rural populations, college populations, businesses, renters, LGBTQ, and all of it you can think of. And this is by far the first time we've done a really good targeted campaign on things you can download and use today. So 2020 census.gov/partners. So for the people who are in the room, do not recreate the wheel. These are actually really good. Our logo has also been translated into 13 languages to target some of the communities. So we're targeting babies, right? There's campaigns that are like, hey, baby should be counted too, right? Because children are part of the thing. So we welcome you to go to that. If you have any other concerns, please let me know, because we're trying to collect all the concerns in the room. One of the things we're actually really trying to work on from a really big level is how do we get all this caught in one place so everybody can hear the same thing. If there's events in Carroll County or Talbot County, like we should all know where that is, because some of our congressional partners would love to attend. Right? I've been getting a lot of feedback. We don't know where their events are. We would love to support. We would love to be there. So I think one thing that we would love to work on is we would love the state to work on is a joint communication campaign in which we can target these efforts. But if you remember nothing else, 2020 census.gov/partners, go on there, and if there's any group that's missed, let us know, because we don't know what's there right now. And that feedback is really important to us. So thank you.
Do we have any other county?
Thomas from Garrett County on the phone.
Hi Thomas, how are you?
I'm doing all right, yes.
Thank you for being so patient.
So, in Garrett County, we met once already. We are a very rural county. We're concerned about the reception to the census from certain elements of the county who aren't terribly excited about government. But we also have an issue where our connectivity, our internet connectivity is an issue. So one thing that we are concerned about is, we have, I work in the library, of course, we're able to deliver internet through that, but unfortunately, like I said, having a lot of the emphasis being placed on the online aspect of things for our county is going to be problematic, and I've asked that we could get some paper census forms for distribution to those areas where connectivity might be bad, but I haven't heard anything definitive yet. I'm hoping that that's going to be a possibility. We've partnered with the Chamber of Commerce in order to get information about the census sent to employers, to their workers. We've partnered with the Board of Education to see to it that materials are distributed to the students to their parents, and those are the steps we've taken so far.
Thank you.
We've also investigated, and I think it's something we're going to wind up doing, working with our community action group to get notifications delivered to utility bills.
I have a suggestion in response, if you care. So one of the things that we've heard in Prince George's County is that there are people who are going to go around with iPads. Some are going to do it via an RV. So our libraries are donating their computers and whatnot to help people, so you can have a slot, you can come to a library. We're going to work with the schools, and there's going to be a slot, like a 2-hour slot here and there, where people can go to do things online. And I understand you want the papers, the hard copies, but if you can bring the iPads to people in areas where there is connectivity, that might be helpful, or a designated spot where people can come periodically, that might be helpful as well.
Yes, but again, my point is that if you, the census goal is to ensure 100% completion of the count, then, prioritizing one way of doing things does not seem like it's going to reach that goal, especially in areas where that is a problem.
I'm saying both. I'm not saying that to the exclusion of the other, but I'm just saying providing options.
One of the things that we did
It's something, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is something that, just on the kind of a side note, that as a librarian we deal with a lot. We get a lot of people coming in these days, wanting to apply for jobs, wanting to obtain government information, wanting to file for services, this, that, and the other thing. And of course, in this day and age, virtually all of that is online. And either they don't have it at home, or they may not be comfortable dealing with computers. We try to teach them the best we can, but we deal with a lot of retirees who, are unfamiliar with computers. And, again, putting this all online, and with often very few other options is a disservice to them. I've dealt with parents who have tried to set up appointments with their children who are incarcerated and who are completely unfamiliar with computers, who have had to do a lot of the for them. Again, everything being online is not good. And yes, I understand that you're giving options, but, that is not the trend, is it?
I'm just gonna piggyback off of some things that Julie said and Jermaine to his comment. One thing that I have done is reached out to our partnership specialists and let them know there was a need for in-person recruitment. While those his comments are correct, accessibility online is not always available to all residents. So one of the things we decided to do in September, and hopefully we can continue that organization and relationship, is to have 2 partnership specialists at our Hispanic Festival in September. So while we'll have our census table and we'll promote our different partnerships, the U.S. Census Bureau said that they will be there helping us recruit residents during our program.
Also, I should emphasize that I can hear very, very little of what is being said right now.
Sorry. Also, just to piggyback off of what you just said, for some of my counties, and do you hear me? I'm sorry.
Thomas, can you hear?
Trying to get closer.
No.
You hear me now?
She just.
So.
Another point, towards, maybe not everything being online is, anyway.
Just to piggyback off what Prince George just said, the same thing, I'm a partnership specialist. My counties are Kent, Carroll, Harford, Baltimore County, and I know I'm Cecil. With some of those counties, we know that their connectivity is kind of low. So we automatically already working with some of the libraries to actually have scheduled dates that we will be there, workshops, also to help people out. We also working with public school systems to actually get in and actually do some work there with them as well. So it's just a matter of, we know that that's going to be a problem. We already know that that's going to be an issue. But we want to make sure that we get an accurate count. So any way possible, partnership specialists, I know that some people in the room have said that they're going to have ambassadors. Any way possible that we can get the count done, that's what we're here to do.
Well, that's wonderful, and that's why I'm hoping that we'll be able to get some printed forms that we can distribute to people for whom that would be an issue that I haven't heard back yet.
You know what, that would be a great question, or also somebody to work with you, your partnership specialist to work with you as well. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll contact Ashley to talk further with you, and that way we can have a one-on-one. Thank you.
Just
I'm just, trying to think of some solutions here, and I know it is an issue in Garrett. But maybe with the schools, maybe they could you could speak with your local superintendent and see if at some of those schools, they could do a census night when the census is, when it opens up, so that folks can come to the schools. Maybe just, I don't know how many nights they'd be willing to do it, but maybe a couple nights they'd be willing to open up their computer labs to have folks come in and maybe work with your specialist to see if you can get somebody to help facilitate that. Maybe that could help.
Yeah, that's true.
I wanted to bring up one point. I mean, speaking about the rural-urban divide generally, I know people are finding it challenging to, in rural environments, especially to find trusted people and trusted champions. It's a little bit easier in some of our urban communities to spot because of a larger nonprofit base, obviously, right? But I think what we found, and this is proven nationally, that many of the trusted speakers that immigrant communities overall, particularly, and I imagine this is true for a lot of other communities face, but many of the trusted voices are professionals, are doctors, are teachers. So engaging, and I think that's kind of a bridge to our next, some of the next agenda items that we have about what the agency response plans are. Key people to focus on for whether you're urban or rural are people like eligibility workers, or people who work at the Department of Human Services, places where folks are going to receive services, whether they're eligible for it, but also, of course, our nonprofit and social safety network is a lot larger in urban communities, obviously in the rural communities, but there's still opportunities with the eligibility workers, with the human services workers that are working at the hospitals, where we can engage them on not just having passive information, on the desks of these folks, but engaging those individuals on how the census works, on how to participate with them, educating them about what communities are most often undercounted, and really working with those workers, working with those social services workers, working with those eligibility workers, to really target those folks with more specific information that they can follow up. I think that's something, whether it's urban or rural, that we can really work on. And I think one thing I wanted to share was really, that was in one of the conversations in last night's Prince George's hearing. It's also working with our school system, but not just flyer distribution and not just flyering, but also incorporating the census, how it works, what it is, into the children's civics classes and social studies classes, having a day where the teachers are speaking to the children about what it means, because it is a fundamental part of our governmental system, right? And I thought it was a really innovative idea. It's something that we should approach our public school systems about.
But we're already doing that.
Right?
We're already doing that.
Right.
There is a curriculum through the census office called Statistics in Schools. So we've already reached out to all the local superintendents, all the social studies coordinators and math coordinators, made them aware that this is available. As they're meeting this summer, our social studies and math specialists meet with the specialists from all the counties. And so they're exposing them to this and encouraging them to use it in classrooms. So it's another avenue.
And I just wanted to say thank you for those resources, because that link that was sent out maybe 2 weeks ago, I shared that with our education subcommittee and our universities and colleges subcommittee. And the one Julia sent out yesterday will be shared, and also with our other partners. So we are utilizing the resources that the Census Bureau distributes to us. So thank you.
Did everybody receive those emails by any chance?
I actually just signed up. So I just signed us up, and then they come through. The only one that was different was the one from Julius, but other than that, I just get them regularly. They give updates almost every day in terms of resources, how you can connect with your partners, materials, and so on and so forth. And what we try to do is make sure, in addition to Prince George's County materials, we place those materials online. There was one for municipalities and cities in terms of what they should be doing. And so I found that about a week ago, and I shared it with our team, and we'll have that on our website as well. So thank you.
We'll make sure John and MM are sending out any new materials from the Census Bureau as well.
Yeah, and take the time and sign up, because I did that myself as well. You know, if you go to the Maryland, the Maryland census.gov, you sign up there and you're gonna start getting emails pretty often. So it might be a good exercise to do.
If you guys had a gap in the census partnership specialist in the area, let us know. We'll connect you. But I think it's important to know who your federal partners are because we're trying to fill those gaps. And the second thing, we got a meeting with the Maryland Philanthropy Network. And they're actually really curious to hear from you guys where the gaps are. I've already heard that there's this rural population that, funding could be a thing. That's not our place to say go to this person, but I am gonna say that conversation came up and they really want to hear where the gaps are. So the Maryland Philanthropy Network is another really great part of the concept.
Just one comment, just addressing the rural urban thing again, because Caroline County, obviously a rural county. I think one of the issues, some of the counties can disagree or agree with me, is some of the more urban counties actually have dedicated staff to the census. And we certainly don't have that in Caroline County. We have me and a committee of about 15 people. So when I hear and think about outreach to some of the hard to count communities in Caroline County, I think some of my struggles in trying to figure out how to reach out to them is just my own time, because I don't have anybody dedicated to doing just that. So, for what it's worth. But MDP has been wonderful, John, and thank you.
And that's the role of our coordinators, particularly those counties that were not funded through the census grants, to be an extension of your staffs to assist that workload, recognizing that the resources are smaller with more tasks on each employee. So I really encourage you and urge you to use them as an extension of your staff to assist you in organizing and getting folks at the table for this work.
Hi, this is Janelle. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to jump in. I think this was so helpful and so informative. So thank you to all of our jurisdictions who are doing so much work to ensure that everyone is counted. I found this to be a really helpful conversation with the updates. I was wondering if it would be good for the state to give an update in terms of what we have underway and what has been accomplished so far. And I also want to make sure that we follow up on the discussion around the $900,000 and what the status of that is, so that we can go ahead and move forward with allocating those resources.
I can, delegates, it's a second record. We are working on how we can distribute how we make available the $900,000. Our emphasis will be to make sure that there's the Western Maryland and Eastern Shore counties that were not beneficiaries of the first census grants panel funding have an opportunity. We're making sure that I'm trying to put together a budget that would make sense for how that can be handled, how that can be administered. I have to admit that every time we try to put a meeting together in this summertime, there's got some key folks that are not around, because I respect everybody's vacation, but we will have something together shortly to figure out how that money gets best used. We are well aware at the Department of Planning the results of the census grant panel process, and the Eastern Shore and Western Maryland, we are well aware of the issue there. Southern Maryland also, yes. If we have one thing, we have maps. So I have the maps. I understand that issue. I also am grateful for everyone's feedback today. If we could just get Montgomery County going a little bit better, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to hear everything that you're doing, and I don't want anybody feeling like they can't do what Montgomery County is doing, because you might not need to do what Montgomery County is doing. You might need to take some ideas from what Montgomery County is doing and really target it in the Southern Maryland, in the Eastern Shore area. So that's the beauty of the collaboration that's going on here. I want to make sure that the process for that distribution of money makes sense. And the stewardship of that money has been my responsibility ever since I was sitting on the grants panel. So to make sure that the process, the secondary process works.
You have been removed from the call.
Well, if you didn't like what I was saying, you could have just. So so we've had we also had the visit, Baltimore City mentioned the visit from the director, Director Dillingham, and he was pleased with Maryland's progress, pleased that so many people had already been engaged, and that the local level engagement has begun in earnest in lots of places. So that partnership process that we were complimented, Audra and her team were complimented for the bridges that have already been built, the partnerships already been built, to try to make sure that the entire state was motivated. We previewed for the director something that Maryland's trying to improve upon. You all should be using the ROAM, the Response Outreach Area Mapper, that tells you by census tract how things performed last time and predictions for this time. It's based on about more than 24 variables. We have asked our folks to look at, are there about a dozen variables that are most predictive in Maryland? And then to highlight maybe half a dozen of those that are kind of even more predictive of what those census tracts look like. And that product will be made available online so that you can look at the ROAM mapper, and then you can look at Maryland Department of Planning's kind of improvement on the ROAM mapper to see if there's some areas that you might want to focus on that you didn't think of. You can have a little dashboard view to say, this is the 0 to 5 population, this is the 65 and older population. These are the single family households. You can see the poverty index. You can see the things that are most important for your outreach efforts. And then the director indicated there's a possibility they may be able to supply some real-time response data this time around. So I'm not trying to say that you should be glued to your computer. I'm not trying to cause a further digital divide. But what I'm trying to say is, if you go to the Maryland Department of Planning's website, and we're able to show real-time response data. So sometime by the end of April, we're able to see which areas have responded well and which areas have not responded yet. You may need to shift your emphasis to an area that hasn't responded well. If that data is able to be updated real time, we will clearly make it available to you. And I'm not trying to say that we do a better job than the census, because the census has done a great job with their ROAM map. So we are trying to make sure that we can target it and just customize it a bit for each of your areas. So if that's something that we're able to do, we're clearly going to make that real-time results available to you. The issue of the lack of connectivity in the Western Maryland areas, even on the Eastern Shore. I traveled the entire state, thousands of miles in the car, and I'm just delighted every once in a while that nobody's bothering me, right? Because my phone's not going off, I'm not getting any emails, nobody's interrupting me. Then I realized I'm not in communication with anybody. They don't not want to talk to me, they can't talk to me. Then I get and stop for coffee somewhere, and my phone just blows up because there's a hotspot, and all of a sudden everything that I've been missing all day long starts coming to the phone. And then people are making decisions based on the thinking that I didn't care about something and I didn't have a chance to respond. I've seen it real time, I've seen it in person, whether I'm in Allegheny or Garrett County, whether I'm down the Eastern Shore, whether someplace in Southern Maryland, I haven't been able to get in touch with my own folks. So I understand that concept. I understand we have to have a strategy for that concept. I understand the strategy can't be simply if we can make digital available in a different manner, that's great. But there are going to be people who are going to rely upon a piece of paper. And we know that. And the timing of when the paper hits the household is not our control, but we will make sure the messaging continues that there are 3 ways to respond. And there's a phone way to respond also. But if you have a hard line and your phone works, you can respond by phone. If the computer's not your thing, you can respond by phone. You will get a paper form to fill out, to respond. We're gonna encourage people to fill out the paper form. That's not, it's the third way to do it. It may be the only way some people will do it. I understand that. And so we're working on those strategies also. So I'm thrilled to hear everything that's going on. And I think we can always benefit from hearing somebody like Montgomery County explain what's happened. And then Montgomery County, those ideas are not gonna directly translate to Wycomico County. They're not gonna be what's happening in Salisbury. But some of those things may work very well. And that's why we need to keep communicating. We'll try to facilitate that information flow and connect what's happening in each of your counties. Hopefully, we'll be able to come to MDP's website to see what's happening at census.gov in some other places. And at the very least, we can hook you up with the people who are trying to make it happen in other places. So that's as much of an update as I have for you at the moment.
I do want to say, the people on the phone were just put back on and kicked us off, so I apologize for the technical difficulty there.
Yes, hi, apologies, we got disconnected, so I missed about the last 5 minutes. The last thing I heard was that, Mr. Secretary, you were saying that in terms of the additional funds, can you confirm that the CCC is going to have that $900,000 plus dollars? I wanted to just confirm that, and I think you mentioned that it was going to be distributed in Western and Eastern Shore, Western Maryland, Eastern Shore. Is that correct?
Well, I said we have a preference for making sure that it gets distributed to the Western Maryland and Eastern Shore and Southern Maryland. The counties that did not participate in the initial grant fund from the Census Grants Panel. That will be the preference. That's how I prefer to set that up. And yes, I can confirm that the money will be made available.
So almost $1 million to those jurisdictions.
No, I didn't say almost $1 million to those jurisdictions. I said there will be a preference for the jurisdictions that didn't receive the funding. So I'm trying to figure out what's equitable based on what still needs to be done, considering that there are jurisdictions that did not take advantage of the Census Grants Panel funding. So I'm still trying to figure out what kind of a formula makes sense for that.
Okay, understood. And I think that because we have the CCCs in the room, I definitely heard a lot of input and feedback on how it would be useful for the state to potentially spend those funds. So I think that perhaps we can continue the conversation, because I'm hearing a lot from our local jurisdictions around support and various needs. So it's very good to hear that $900 plus thousand dollars would be available. And I do want to underscore the need to get our budget developed. That's something that we talked about at the last meeting. And I think it's critical that we understand the resources that we have and how those will be distributed. It's been a month since the last meeting, and I think that's really important.
Understood, thank you.
I was just gonna mention, in addition to the funding, we need to take into consideration all the other resources that we can all share. And as a CCC, we are working together to make sure that the state, at the end of the day, we get everybody counted. That's our mission. And so let's keep our mind focused. We're gonna be working together, and let's use all the different resources that we can bring to the table. In addition to funding, I want to share that we got the ethnic commissions that is provided to the state. So every ethnicity is represented, and we've been working very closely with them. So whatever you want to have somebody that look like the community that you want to serve, you can reach out to us, and we can make sure that we can find somebody that can come and connect you with those leaders that you want to have in your community. The Hispanic Heritage Month is coming up next month. So think about that. Use us. I'm the chair of the Hispanic Commission. So we be available any ways that you want, you guys need us, we can help you. In addition, the Census Gov, they are doing an amazing job. And whenever you need them, they're there, as well as the state. So just use us as a resource. Don't feel that you are alone, stuck in your own space. but use all the resources that are there in addition to the funding that will be available to continue the work that we've been wanting to do with the count of the people.
I think it's extremely important that we focus on education. When we send the right message, the community get engaged. If they don't understand what is the sense of how important it is for our community and our state, they will keep themselves away from the main focus, that is to bring everybody to be counted. I think the simple way to explain it, make it more easier for the community to understand. We don't need to go all around. You need to go census.gov. You need to go here. We as individuals can impact other people's life. And I really believe that we have the power in our hands to communicate in the right manner where they understand that these funds are needed for our state to move forward. In which way? We need transportation, we need school systems, we need medicine. We need these resources to move. And in the time, they understand that each of us counts and we get a number, because this is important. It's also about financials, and we have said it before. But it's extremely important that the community understand that when a baby is not counted, or a teenager is not counted, a veteran is not counted, a homeless is not counted, we're affecting our state individually in approximately $18,250 in a period of 10 years. Will we be able to afford it individually? I don't think so, right? Many of us will struggle if we don't have the money in our budgets. So our state will be also affected if we don't give the right message out and help them understand you will not receive the money cash, because we do radio shows and we're advertising the community, and we got people calling us back now, hey, where do I go and get my money? It's not about your money, it's about our community. Doesn't matter our difference, doesn't matter what religion you practice, what political party you belong to. We're talking here about everybody. And that's the most important message we need to send it. If we take care of our communities, we will move forward, because this is about all of us. It's not just about one. Everybody counts, and we must be counted. The best way I can see it, this is like an epidemic. When you tell your friend, we talk all day about census. We go to bed and then the next morning we're talking just about census. Why? Because we have understood the message. It's affecting our next generation if we don't bring the message right now to the table. Because a family that is not counted is resources that our state is not getting. And we need to join together to impact. I want to say we're going to be one of the minimum first to be counted and turn our numbers, because a 20 period that have not been impacted, that's a lot of money that our state is not definitely benefiting out of it. I do really appreciate the effort and the help of each of you and our partnership, because that's the only way we're going to impact the state. Thank you all.
Okay, so we're gonna move on with the agenda. So we're gonna be talking about the outreach plans in general that we're gonna be putting together. This is something that we are looking to have completed before the end of the year, right? So we need you to get this done, and also, as Secretary mentioned, he's developing a budget that will make sense, where everybody will be included, and hopefully we'll be able to maximize and leverage all the funding as well. Also, we talk about additional members that we need, and thank you so much for the input of getting somebody from the rural community into, if you have anybody in mind, please send us the resume. There you go. Yeah, put yourself in a paper and send it over to Audra.
So what positions are there that need to be filled? Do you have a title for them, or you just need people to fill seats? How does that
The only one we have a title is the faith community. That's the only one we would like, definitely, because that's something extremely important. The faith community, they really do move our communities. So it will be great if we have somebody for the faith community, but other 3 spots are open. So if you have a resume that we can get in, it will be awesome. So in that way, we can have the whole committee completed and more impact. I think we're here, if you're in this room, it's because you have a mission and you have understanding the importance to be counted. And if we join together, the message actually goes out faster. And I really believe that it's extremely important how we're gonna communicate I was talking to Audra, maybe we can go over and do a Google Drive for all of us. In that way, you can see the resources that other people are implementing. We can place our videos that we're doing on how to get the message out, and if they're really explanatory, you can have it. If you're in a county and you're doing something that you really believe can benefit other communities, just place it there and we all share instead of us reinventing the wheel. Time is flying, and if you see, we're already August 6th, when we open our eyes, it's gonna be, day to be counted. So we really need to maximize our resources, and if we all join together and place on the table that is gonna benefit our state, I think everybody will be willing to move forward. So resumes are open. If you have somebody in mind that can help us in the process, welcome.
And also in addition, one idea that we wanted to share with you guys is that we want to engage your key leaders in this. We don't want to feel that everybody's working in different sides of the room. So we wanted to facilitate with you, the lead person that is here. We want to meet with the county exec of your county, you, one or two of ourselves here, to kind of talk about the strategies that we've been talking about, and make sure that all these leaders, key leaders in your counties are engaged into this. And they all know what we've been talking about. So this is something that we'll be following up, probably with an email, and facilitating those meetings, making sure that we got everybody engaged. And also, as it was mentioned, social media is huge. So you have to start playing your role in the social media, sharing that with everybody, all your friends. You don't know who will see that will make a huge impact in your community. So we're working on developing, great, and I know you shared a great piece of paper. I don't know if everybody else got it, but the memo that you were putting together with the social media campaign, yes. Do you want to share some of that?
Yes, the state agency, CCC, has developed, along with the Department of Information Technology and the Communications Department within Planning, has developed a data analytics and social media plan that we hope to, this month, we hope to evaluate those plans. We're having our CCC meeting at the end of the month, the state agencies, and we have to roll those plans out at the end of September. And the plan is in process. Every agency has promised that they're going to have a preliminary plan by the end of the month. So we're moving very rapidly on this. So this is something that can be implemented very quickly. And that was one of the options. We get something out quickly and expeditiously while we work on the boots on the ground plans.
We also meeting with all the state secretaries.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Did you want to transition into that? So the state agency, CCC, is moving along. We, like I said, have our meeting at the end of the month. It took a while for all of the agencies to coalesce and develop their resources, but we're on board with 31 of the 33 agencies. And each one has a representative. And along with the work that we're doing at the staff level, Secretary McCord has been working at the cabinet level to increase awareness. He sent out a letter recently, and we're continuing to get buy-in at the top level. So we are we scheduled our monthly meetings. We've created agency action plans, and those action plans are turning into full-blown plans, part of which is the social media plan. And so what we're trying to do is, as you stated, trying to get agencies to relate their messages to the services that they actually provide, so that the constituents can understand the impact that those census dollars actually have on the services that they're receiving. And we've had some success with that. We're going to continue to mobilize that. And then finally, we have the commissions. Right now, we have the Civil Rights Commission, who is interested in engaging their constituency, and many of those are hard to count, low response communities. And so they reached out to us, and we're engaging with them. So that's those.
So you're meeting here at the end of the month.
So we also wanted to ask anybody else from the committee, if you wanted to add anything else to the group. I wanted to give the opportunity if anybody wanted to share something.
I think just maybe a quick question to you, just because I'm a fan of the state agencies, especially in other resource communities. I'm wondering what's the communication between the action plan and the individual counties? Like, for example, the individual counties and like how are we integrating what the state is doing out there, with the work plan is going to be at the state level with what the individual counties are doing in their services kind of infrastructure? Was there going to be communication there? Is there going to be like an integrated approach with the county?
Well, what we're doing is we're reaching out to the county CCCs, our outreach coordinators have the plan. So to the extent that we're able to reach, for example, Department on Aging, just take an example. So we're identifying the resources that the Department of Aging has, so that our coordinators can go out to the state to the county CCCs and identify the resource centers, the aging resource centers, so that we can make sure that we distribute the correct materials, that we're engaging in the NGOs and other nonprofits. But we're doing it at the county level, so that we're going from the top down. We're facilitating the relationships that are already there, that are being cultivated at the county level. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I just want to make sure that they have the ability to and provide your feedback, because there might be some things that are tailored necessarily in one county that maybe not necessarily contradict what you're doing, but what you're doing at the state level, it might have to be tailored specifically for that county's community. Right? So just allowing that there's enough feedback for them to give you to provide like the tailored messaging, the tailored material to support their.
I think we can also ask at the state meeting coming up at the end of the month to identify the state efforts that will be going to the rural counties, so that you can understand what state agencies may be doing in rural counties, so that it shows there's some other people on that same lift, and you might have to put the lift in that direction if state agencies going to do that, so you can put resources somewhere else. So that's another way to focus based on the conversation.
And also, George, if I can take it a little bit further, we've encouraged our county partners to work with their social service office, their departments of health, but they should also be receiving the messages from the State Department of Human Services and Health and so on and so forth. So it'll reinforce the message from the state level, but also the county level.
Anybody else in the room or in the phone from the committee who wanted to share? Oh, I'm sorry, I'll pass it to you. Anybody else on the table? No? Okay. Yes.
I think it was Austin that said about being able to communicate with each other. And I wonder if there's a way to set up best practices somewhere that we could go look, because there's a lot of information given out here, and as much as you try and write it down, it's difficult to do. So I don't know if that's an option of doing that somehow, under planning or under the, committee or whatever. Yes.
Yeah, I think it was clear, you mentioned that how we create a communication plan so everybody can share best practices and also keep the communication moving because new ideas might come up. And so we wanna make sure that everybody's connected. And so we're gonna work on creating something maybe, there's two hands. Google Drive, but also I know there's more sophisticated technology that we can integrate. We'll take the gentleman in the back, and then you, Jordan. Yes. Yes, no, you.
Oh, sure, yeah. While I was sitting here, I went and secured the Maryland Census Slack domain. So, I have it now. The state wants it and wants to set up an enterprise account because that would be the one that we would need. I would gladly pass it over. Slack allows you to integrate calendars, so even if some agencies are on Google and others are on Outlook, you can have calendars in there. It's kind of like AIM or instant message, but also has all of the abilities that Google Drive does without requiring a Google account. Because I know for me, the city uses Outlook and working with Google is really annoying because I use my private one. I don't do that. But Slack, you just get it added to it, so I can give that domain over. And then, Mr. Secretary, to your point on e-services and Roam. So I also took the back end of Roam to develop a custom web mapping application for our city. And I felt while Roam's great, the city of Baltimore, where, neighborhoods, not census tracts, we have 278 neighborhoods that are defined. No one knows that census tract 11602.02 is Barclay, but me. So the one thing I'm asking for the state is that if you're gonna create something like that, I think you need to have all of the GIS analysts from the jurisdictions involved, because I have a bunch of players that are particular to Baltimore only, and the one thing that I'm doing with it is adding a lot of nodes and points so that people can not only see this is I think it's great for an analyst to say, we know that this area is hard to count for X, Y, and Z indicator. But I think for a community member, it might be a little bit more powerful to say, I know that my neighborhood looks bad because it's red. But wait, here's a point here for me to go, let me click on it. And then, that's the library that has census outreach that, was mentioned here. That's the library that I go to, and here are the hours. Or this is the barber shop that the city granted money to because they're granting money, or something like that. So I think working with all the analysts from around the jurisdictions would be good. And then when you have provided that, keeping it on your website would be great. But also giving the API out so that it can be just directly developed, put into the website for all of us. Because one thing that I want our complete account committee to do is develop its own website and just have it as its own standalone, not government thing. And it'd be great to have the state's info, but if it's ArcMap or something, or ArcGIS Online, you can just export the API, give it to us. So that'd be another really good thing. So that we can all have really meaningful point-based players within our jurisdictions on this powerful tool that the state could kind of put the person power behind in developing.
I'm all for 21st century tools to get it done.
Yeah, that's it. I hired a millennial for a reason, I guess.
Jordan?
I just wanted to share another resource. Census Counts has a great literature and tools. And I also took a training a couple of weeks ago on how to build the campaign plan for the census. And it was very helpful. I transferred some of those tidbits into our agenda for our subcommittee. So I think they're gonna post their slides online. The Census Count has a great tool system, and they have workshops online.
Well, thank you. Those are great information. I want to move along. I know time is almost top of us. Wanted to, if there's not any other comment from the committee or the group, I wanted to share the time for the next meeting, the date. I just realized that next meeting is supposed to fall on September 3rd, but it is right after the holiday, so I don't know if we're gonna be back. So I'm proposing that we move it for the 10th. Is everybody cool with that? On the phone, September 10th. For the next, that's for the complete count committee meeting. And you are welcome to come, it's a public meeting. And we still have not determined location, so we're gonna work on the logistics. So we good for the 10th? Perfect.
September the 3rd, day after Labor Day.
Right, right, because of the whole.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Now, we should have confirmation soon about location, so I'll let you know as soon as I have that information for the next meeting. And also, we would love to come to your neck of the woods. We're trying to hold our meetings throughout the state. We've held meetings in Anne Arundel County, Prince George's County, Baltimore City. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. But we do want to make sure that we're going to all areas of the state. So if you do have a place where we could meet that can hold this size of room, we'd greatly appreciate it. And just let me know.
All right.
It's a leap year, but there's still 238 days left of census. I usually have my little calendar counter. 238 days left, it's a leap year, so you got one extra day to work on.
All right. Anything else? We're good. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you for the committee, and we'll see each other next month. Thank you.